The power struggle between genders. The Italian Renaissance to today. Discussed by Gabriella Tuxbury. The genders are different, and there's no denying that. However, their differences have contributed to a constant power struggle throughout the ages. Whether it be today or in the Italian Renaissance, the genders have always struggled with the idea of the other being more powerful. In order to discuss the topic at hand, it is important to first define gender. The traditional definition of gender. Gender is a noun, and it means the male or female sex, or the state of being either male or female. I will be using the book The Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio as a window into the Italian Renaissance and the way that gender was perceived during this time period. The Decameron stories are told over a course of 10 days. On the first day, in the introduction, we are introduced to our main characters or storytellers. The book starts off in a beautiful church known as the Santa Maria Novella, which is located in Florence, Italy. 7 women have congregated there in order to discuss a plan to flee and find shelter from the Black Plague, which has been tormenting the city. The women's names are Pompinea, the blooming one, or the oldest; Philomena, the one who loves singing, or the beloved; Nymphalae, the fresh beloved, one of the youngest; Fiammetta, the little flame; Elisa, other name of Dione, queen, lover of Aeneas; and Lauretta, little Laura; and finally Emilia, similar to Dioneo, a male character who represents lust. Notice the names of the women. For example, the fresh beloved or the little flame. These names suggest vulnerability or a sense of youthful weakness that needs protection. Ironically enough, as the women are preparing to leave, Philomena states, "You must remember we are all women, and every one of us is sufficiently adult to acknowledge that women, when left to themselves, are not the most rational creatures, and that without the supervision of some man or other, their capacity for getting things done is somewhat restricted. We are fickle, quarrelsome, suspicious, cowardly, and easily frightened. Hence, I greatly fear that if we have none but ourselves to guide us, our little band will break up much more swiftly." Elisa responds by saying, "It is certainly true that man is the head of woman. These ideas about women, vulnerability, suspicion, and cowardice, portray women as the weaker gender." Shortly after Philomena states this, 3 men enter the church, just 3. The implication here is that 3 men are capable of protecting 7 women. Does that mean men have over 2 times the power and capability in situations? Considering the time period, that was probably the case. Men had much more power than women did in Italian Renaissance society, and according to an article published by the Saylor Foundation titled "Women from the Renaissance to the Enlightenment," women did not experience the kind of rebirth that the Italian Renaissance is characterized by. They were still used in society for the benefit of men. The marriage of a daughter, the production of children, and the women refraining from sexual activity before marriage, especially in high-class families, were what society emphasized most. It is clear here that men had power during this time period rather than women. However, throughout the rest of the Decameron, there are instances where Boccaccio puts forth a new kind of woman who is sly, cunning, and holds power over the man. One of the stories where the woman holds power over men is the story of a girl named Lisbetta. This story is told by Philomena, and it is the 5th story on the 4th day of storytelling. The story is about Lisbetta and her forbidden affair with one of her brother's employees. The employee's name is Lorenzo, and Lorenzo and Lisbetta have been meeting in secret to fulfill their desires. One of the times when the 2 of them are together, they are seen by one of Lisbetta's 3 brothers. He is furious because her being promiscuous could seriously affect their honor as a family. He informs the other brothers, and they decide to bring Lorenzo on a business trip, in which they will kill him. The business trip goes as planned, and Lisbetta keeps questioning her brothers as to what happened to her lover. They shut her down quickly, telling her that if she pesters them any more, she will be sorry. Shortly after, Lorenzo comes to Lisbetta in a dream and informs her of his death, and how and where it occurred. Lisbetta goes to the place of his murder, bringing with her one close maid. She unburies her love, cuts off his head, and places it in a pot. Once they returned home, the story states that she took the head to her room, she locked herself in, and cried bitterly, weeping so profusely that she saturated it with her tears, at the same time implanting 1,000 kisses upon it. Page 328. She keeps the head underneath the basil plant which she has planted over it in her chambers. Although it seems as though the brothers have all the power here, Lisbetta in fact has power over them. She knows of what happened, and they are completely oblivious to that. In addition, she has his head, which is a very bold part of the body to dismember, in her room, right under their noses. In her own way, she is being sly and revengeful. This obliviousness of the men and the power that the woman has are definitely brought to light by Boccaccio. On top of all this, if you look at the illustration, all of the happenings on Lisbetta's side of the illustration are to the backs of the men. They have no idea what's going on. Additionally, Lisbetta is shown cutting off the head, perhaps the most powerful part of the story. In conclusion, the men who were fighting for power for their reputation lost out to Lisbetta's fight for power over herself. The next story in the Decameron that displays this idea of women that Boccaccio is trying to portray is the first story on the seventh day of storytelling. The storyteller for this particular tale is Emilia. The story is of a woman named Monetessa. It is written that she is a most beautiful and charming wife to a man called Giovanni. However, while Giovanni was out working, Monetessa happened to fall in love with a man named Federigo. Their affair began, and Federigo would visit while Giovanni was away. One night, Giovanni appears unexpectedly, and Tessa has no way of fixing her signal with Federigo. The signal is the direction that the donkey head near the house faces one way and Federigo comes, and the other way Giovanni is home. Federigo, following the signal, approaches the door and knocks. Giovanni, wondering who it is, asks Tessa. Tessa, knowing full well who it is, cunningly snakes herself out of the situation. She looks at her husband and says, "Oh heavens, Giovanni dear, do you know what it'll be? It'll be the werewolf that's been frightening me out of my senses for these past few nights." She says a prayer which convinces her husband that the werewolf will go, and sends a message to Federigo to leave quickly. Once again, the obliviousness of the man is emphasized, as is the woman with knowledge and power. The final story I'm going to talk about is the story of Nastagio, Day 5, Story 8. This story is the literal embodiment of a power struggle between the genders. In the paintings by Botticelli, you can see a man in the distance on horseback chasing a woman. In the forefront of the painting, it appears as though the man has caught the woman and is pulling out her heart. The other man in the picture, presumably Nastagio, is running away terrified. This is a painting showing the eternal damnation of Guido, a man who lived before Nastagio, and the beautiful woman whom he loved. This woman, however, did not love him back. She was horrid to him, and he ended up taking his own life. Now he must chase her as if he hates her, and she must flee in terror every day over and over again. This woman had power over Guido while she was alive. He was in love, and she had no feelings. But when dead, he obtained power over her and proceeded to treat her as his mortal enemy. A true struggle between man and woman. In conclusion, during the Italian Renaissance, men absolutely had more power than women. They could make more important decisions, work in whatever they wanted, or tell their daughter who to marry. But Boccaccio seems to hint that women were in fact fighting back to have a tiny bit of power over the men in very subtle ways. In today's world, there is still a constant power struggle between men and women. Women want equal rights. Certain men don't think they should have equal rights. Men are always expected to be very masculine and tough, and those who argue against this are thought to be unattractive to women or weaker. It's a power scale that's constantly being shifted to one side or the other. Once one side gains some ground, the other immediately finds a way to boost itself up or tear the other side back down. One place where this can be analyzed under a microscope is the workplace. An article by the Wall Street Journal titled "The Hidden Battles of the Sexes at Work" sheds a brilliant light on the back and forth between men and women. It basically states that research shows there is a correlation between higher-ups being senior men and the amount of women who get opportunities for promotion. There is this struggle that men can sometimes have with the idea of giving women more power. At the same time, women blame men for restricting these opportunities. Similarly, the split of housework in a household where both members of a relationship work is not shared equally. There's a power struggle there as well. The journal article states, among women who say they are the primary breadwinners in their household, 43% say they are still the ones primarily responsible for coordinating children's schedules and taking care of home chores. That's the case for only 12% of men who are families' breadwinners. In conclusion, we see that this struggle between men and women, no matter how big or small, has always existed. In order to fix this, we must work together with the other gender, not in competition. Then we will all benefit. Thanks for watching!